Hello, everybody, and welcome once again to Pass Pirate Pay, the movie discussion show. My name is Ken. I am your host alongside my co-host, Andy. Andy, how you doing?
Hello.
What's happening today, Andy?
Oh, not much. Just we're off to see the wizard.
That's right. That is right. In honor of the holiday season coming up, we're not going to be watching The Wizard of Oz, but we're going to be talking about things that are connected to the Wizard of Oz.
Adjacent.
That's right. Wizard of Oz adjacent. Yeah, we're doing three Wizard of Oz-esque things. We're doing 2022's Lynch Oz, a documentary. We're doing 1978's The Wiz, and the 2024 release of Wicked.
Yeah.
So we're going off to see the Wizard.
Yeah, and I think that in today's political climate, it was kind of nice to just escape to Oz for a little while.
Oh, sure, yeah.
You know? Just get away.
Yeah, there is unfortunately no place like home, but sometimes that's not a good thing, really.
Right.
Yeah, we could use a little more Technicolor and a little less reality, I think.
Yeah.
So let's get it started. We're going to be starting off with, like I said, 2022's Lynch Oz. It's a documentary directed by Alexandre Philippe. And this is something that is very near and dear to my heart. This is a documentary about the obsession that David Lynch has with the original film, The Wizard of Oz. Andy, how do you feel about David Lynch? What do you think about him?
So I definitely am not the Lynch fan you are.
Yeah.
I think that some of his stuff is a little weird.
Some of his stuff is a little weird.
And just unable to be understood.
Yeah.
You know, like art pieces. But that being said, I think he does still have a sensible way of telling stories.
Oh, yeah.
You know, just interwoven in that is just that Lynch weirdness.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I like the swings that he takes.
Yeah.
And I like that they keep letting him do it.
Yeah, he does keep taking swings. That is for sure.
You know, and when Twin Peaks came out and it was super popular, I'm like, I can't believe that a David Lynch thing is this popular.
Yeah, this is a thing like we were talking about last week briefly with Roy Clark just being on Hee Haw. Like, this is a thing that never ceases to amaze me, that back in the era of 3 television channels, there's just millions of people are just turning on one of the 3 networks, and there's this fucking weird ass David Lynch TV show
weird on. And I don't think it was any less weird than anything he's ever done.
No, it's crazy.
Like, it was full on David Lynch TV show.
Yeah, the second episode of Twin Peaks ends with like a 15-minute dream sequence where there's, you know, people talking in weird backwards language, and
which also became really popular.
Super cool. Yeah, it's so weird to me. I mean, but yeah, I mean, I love Twin Peaks. It's my favorite television show of all time.
Okay.
My dog is named Cooper after Kyle MacLachlan's character on Twin Peaks. I love Twin Peaks, and I love David Lynch. So I was really excited to see this Lynch Oz when you told me about it, because I had never heard about it.
Right, I stumbled upon it looking for Oz movies for us.
Yeah, it's really cool. I'm so amazed that it exists. Basically, the form this movie takes is 6 different people talking. Basically, it feels like
essays.
It's like, it felt like film school to me, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's just like they interview the person, and it's just a person talking. And then the director, Philippe, does this really cool thing where they're putting images onto the screen that match with what the people are talking about.
Right, and it's basically movie clips.
Right, it's clips of David Lynch movies, or it's clips of David Lynch interviews, or it's clips of other movies, you know, that are kind of touching on what we're talking about.
Right, because I thought it was about David Lynch and Oz, but it was also about just the influence that the Wizard of Oz had on all of cinema.
Yep. Yeah.
And you really think about it, and this movie made me realize there are movies that came before The Wizard of Oz and after them.
Yeah.
You know, it's that big of a tentpole.
Yeah, for sure. It's unbelievable. And the thing I liked most about this movie was thinking about how all the interconnectedness of these worlds of cinema. You know, where it's just like, I love thinking about movies. That's basically my entire life,
and that's all this movie was.
And that's all this movie is. Yeah, it's just people talking about it. And so the first person to talk is Amy Nicholson, who is my favorite film critic.
Oh, okay.
And I had no idea that she had done anything about it, but she's done several podcasts that I listen to religiously.
Oh, okay.
And she's just a really great film critic. She had a podcast long ago called The Canon, where it was her and another film critic, and they were just talking about movies that they really loved and whether or not they should be inaugurated into the canon of great movies.
Oh, okay.
And I was introduced to a number of really cool movies through that one.
Mm-hmm.
And then later she's currently doing a podcast called Unspooled, where it started off with, it's her and you know who Paul Scheer is, and the actor. He's in UCB for a while. He's a sketch comedy actor.
Okay.
You would definitely know him if you saw him.
Yeah.
But it's the two of them, and they started off talking about the AFI's 100 greatest movies list.
Yeah.
And then once they got through that, they just started talking about other movies, and like, again, we're just like discussing whether or not these movies actually deserve to be the greatest movies of all time, you know?
Uh-huh.
And it was cool because I really enjoy thinking about that. But yeah, so her segment I thought was fantastic.
Yeah.
And she starts off talking about the similarities between The Wizard of Oz and It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah.
And I love It's a Wonderful Life. I know you do too.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason, somehow, this never occurred to me. Like the similarities between those two movies, the plot arc that they both seem to follow in the same way, where it's like this person is fed up with their life in their little humdrum world, but then by the end of the movie, they realize that this thing is actually wonderful and they love it very much, you know? And that just never occurred to me. And it's totally weird that these two giant tentpole movies that are such staples of our society, and especially of like, these are the two biggest holiday movies that we have in this country, basically.
Yeah.
Like, these are the movies that every single family watches or used to anyway. During the holiday season, and they're both so similar, and I love both of them, and it somehow never occurred to me.
Another thing that I didn't realize, and I knew this about It's a Wonderful Life because I've done really deep dives into that, but it wasn't very successful when it came out.
Yeah, I didn't know that about The Wizard of Oz either.
Yeah, and the same thing happened with both of them. The TV rights were cheap because they weren't successful.
Yeah.
So the networks bought them and just aired them a bunch of times to fill up space.
Yeah.
And they just became juggernauts.
Yeah, it's really funny. Yeah, I guess it's kind of like how The Shawshank Redemption became like the most popular movie of the last 40 years because TNT bought the rights and just decided to air it like 12 hours a day every day for years.
Mm-hmm.
And just every single person was able to see it that way.
Yeah.
One thing that I thought was interesting about when they were talking about The Wizard of Oz is one of the critics, or I guess Amy Nicholson's the only critic. The other essayists or whatever are all filmmakers. Talking about how for years he had only seen it on TV, and he had a black and white TV. So like that's got to be so weird, right? But for the first, 30 years after The Wizard of Oz came out, if you were watching it on TV, the chances are you were watching it on a black and white TV.
Effect.
And what must that be like, right? Like, how weird must that be? After, like, if you've seen that movie a bunch of times at Thanksgiving, and then all of a sudden you watch it on a colored TV, and you're just like, wait a minute, this movie starts out in black and white and it goes to color? That's really weird. But yeah, I thought that was really cool. But yeah, I guess I thought it was just a really interesting and thought-provoking movie.
I thought so too.
So have you seen the movie Room 237? About The Shining. It's a documentary about The Shining.
I have, yeah.
So yeah, the second segment is called Membrane, is by this guy named Rodney Archer, and he's the director of Room 237.
Okay.
And that's what this movie felt like to me, because that movie is also just people talking, but you're never seeing the people who are talking. It's just images of movies that are going on in the background of that. And I just think that's a really interesting and cool way to make a documentary,
Yeah.
Where it's just like the movie is totally non-judgmentally just showing you these people's ideas. And I feel like the director does a great job of putting interesting clips behind what the people are talking about. I don't know I'm curious as to how much input the commenters had on what images were being shown. Because sometimes they're talking about, direct things like, this is what happens in Wild at Heart. And then they show you a clip from Wild at Heart, and it's just like, I'm sure that the person says, okay, well, just show this clip from Wild at Heart while I'm talking about it. But there are a lot of other scenes where it's just like, I wonder how they chose what they were going to show in the background.
Yeah.
Because they did a really good job with it. I thought that.
Yeah, they did. It was always exciting to look at.
Yeah.
I really liked it. Also, man, how they talked about The Wizard of Oz being an American fairy tale.
Yeah.
And it really is.
Yeah.
Like, if you think about all of our fairy tales, they're all European. You know, they're all of French or German or the Nordic countries. You know, they're all based there. This is ours.
Yeah.
Like it's got a tornado. Do tornadoes exist anywhere else?
I honestly have no idea.
I've never heard of it. I've never heard of a tornado destroying Minsk.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I don't think fuck, I'm just talking out of my ass, but I'm certainly not in Europe, I wouldn't think, just because
it's too mountainous, right?
Yeah, and too many rivers and stuff like that. Yeah, like we have these wide open prairies, which is the kind of places where
I'm surprised that we're the only country that does. I haven't even heard of it in Mexico and Canada.
Yeah, I honestly have no idea. But you're right. When you think of tornadoes, I mean, maybe that's just our American ethnocentrism.
It could be, but if there tornadoes existed elsewhere,
right,
we would have heard about a devastating one that killed a bunch of people in a different country.
Yeah, you certainly would think so.
But I never thought about that until I was watching this movie.
Yeah.
Like a tornado takes her away, and this is uniquely American, and I'm like, I guess it is.
Right, yeah.
I guess tornadoes don't exist anywhere else.
Yeah. So the book, The Wizard of Oz, L. Frank Baum, it was a really political book at the time he wrote it.
Oh yeah,
like because in the
kind of like Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not exactly sure what the politics were, but I know he was like a real populist at like the turn of the 20th century.
He said some nasty things about Indians.
Well, you know, that was probably what was going on back then with just about everybody.
He said we should probably just kill them all it'd be better for them.
But yeah, in the movie, obviously it's ruby slippers, but in the book, she had silver slippers because there was like a big debate going on in the country about whether or not the country was going to be on the silver standard, like whether the dollar was going to represent an amount of silver that you could be paid.
Okay.
And I guess I can't remember exactly the way it went. I'm pretty sure we were on the gold standard and Baum wanted to put us on the silver standard, which would make money cheaper, I guess. So, which would be better for farmers and larger number of people. And all of the Scarecrow and the Tin Man and the Lion, they like all represented political figures at the time.
Okay.
So it really is an American fairy tale.
Yeah.
But then when they made the movie, they're just like, no, we don't want that. We're just going to do this. We're just going to do this Technicolor candy thing.
Ruby looks better on camera.
Right. Right. So the only problem I have with this movie is when you do a movie like this where it's individual voices doing their own individual things.
Yeah.
The quality of each segment of the movie is only as good as the people who are talking. And I just thought that the last couple of segments were just not nearly as interesting.
Okay.
So the last one in particular, the last segment was by a director, and he had directed the remake of Pete's Dragon.
That's right. Yeah.
And The Green Knight. And I haven't seen any of these movies, but
I saw The Green Knight.
People love it.
I liked it.
I've heard it's really good.
Yeah,
I've been meaning to watch it, but I haven't seen it. That director seemed way less interested in talking about David Lynch or other movies, but he wanted to talk about his own stuff, which I thought was really like, I guess maybe because I haven't seen it, and maybe because I was more interested in hearing about David Lynch. But when he's just talking about his own stuff, I was kind of like tuning out. And I guess, you know, the movie, he was the last one, so I was already in the mood to be checked out, maybe. I don't know. I just felt like the movie really dragged kind of at the end.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, that's a pretty minor quibble. I just think that's a function of the movie, right? And it may not even be a flaw. It may just be a feature, right? Where you're going to have, if you have people talking, some of them are going to be less interesting to some people than the other ones, you know? And that's just the way it worked for me.
What do you think of John Waters?
I thought he was great.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought like the way he talked about Baltimore, and he's like, because you know, there's no place like home and everything like that.
Yeah.
Where he's like, home has this pull that nobody can get away from, which is why I never left Baltimore. And it's just so weird when you think about John Waters as a person to think that he's just living in Baltimore for his entire life, right? Like John Waters and Omar hanging out on the same streets. But I mean, you know, it's but yeah, I thought he was really interesting. I thought the woman filmmaker, her name was Karen Kusama. I thought her takes were all really interesting also. Yeah. She was talking a lot about doppelgangers and
and like different planes of existence.
Yeah. And, you know, obviously that stuff is there in The Wizard of Oz. And definitely there in David Lynch movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. It was just every time people would make a point, it was always like, man, that's really obvious, and I wish I had noticed that myself. Right? Like, I love Mulholland Drive. It's my favorite David Lynch movie, and I think it's like really, really excellent. And for some reason, again, it just never occurred to me that there's so much of this Wizard of Oz stuff in it. And you know, to look at that movie as, because there's two distinct halves of that movie, you know, and there's like the fantasy half and then the reality half.
Yeah.
And just thinking about it, it's like, wow, if you think about this, the first half of this movie being Oz, it's just really interesting, and it makes a hell of a lot of sense. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
You know, it does a thing that I think really great documentaries do really well, which is just present ideas and make you think about things, you know, and it's a really good version of the thing that it is doing. That's what I think it's interesting and thought-provoking, and what else can you ask for?
Yeah, I thought so too.
Yeah.
So will you give Lynch Oz a pass, pirate, or pay, Ken Franco?
Well, for me, Lynch Oz will be a pay.
Yeah, it'll be a pay for me too.
Nice.
Just because, like, even if you're not a huge David Lynch fan, I think you'll still like it.
Yeah.
Just because if you're a Wizard of Oz fan at all.
Exactly. And also, like you said, it talks about the connection between the Wizard of Oz and lots of other movies too.
Lots. Big Lebowski is one of them.
Right.
And I was like, oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. And so I just think if you are a person who really likes movies, this movie would be for you. So pay. Yeah. Give them your money.
Absolutely.
All right, so our second movie today is 1978's The Wiz, directed by Sidney Lumet for some reason.
Sidney Lumet. White as the driven snow, I believe.
Yeah, he's a very white man, and written for the screen by Joel Schumacher,
also
another very white person. It's funny, when we talked about Pretty Woman a couple episodes ago, I meant to make the point that, because I said that this movie is a fairy tale for women.
Yeah.
But it's directed by old white man Gary Marshall. And it's just like, you know what? Back in 1989, that's just who gets to make movies. It's just old white dudes get to make movies. And now here we are again. We got this this very black stage musical being adapted by a couple of very old white dudes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So have you ever seen the stage show for The Wiz?
I don't think I have.
Okay, because I know you're a musical
and that existed
theater person
first, right? That existed before the movie.
Yep, for sure.
And I don't think I have.
Yeah. The reason I ask is because I was very curious to get your take about the adaptation of it, because there's really not an awful lot of movie magic happening here. Like it
looks like stage stuff.
Yeah, it just seems like the characters are walking from one stage set to another.
Yeah, and I think a lot of musicals at that time wanted to recapture stage stuff.
Yeah.
They gave up on that after a while, and then they just decided to make movies.
Yeah.
Which I think is better.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, if you're making a movie, then making a movie is certainly the way to go. But like, there are a couple of flourishes, like when Dorothy gets caught up in the tornado at the beginning of this movie. It's played as divine intervention from Glinda the Good Witch, played by Lena Horne, by the way.
Yeah.
And it's got some like really, really cheesy looking visual effects. The tornado and like Lena Horne's character picks Dorothy up in her hand and like blows her into Oz.
Yeah.
It just looks really weird. So
I thought it was all like stylized that way though.
Yeah, I agree. But like, I don't know. I didn't really miss the movie-ish stuff of it. I thought that the set design of the movie was really cool.
Yeah.
So the characters just going from stage set to stage set wasn't really a problem for me, because I really enjoyed the stage set.
And it was all New York, too.
It just looks like New York. It's like fantasy. The Oz of this movie is just like a fantasy version of New York.
It looks like if you're dreaming about New York.
Yeah, I thought it looked really cool. And there's like piles of garbage everywhere, because it's New York in the 70s, and that's just the way it was, you know?
Graffiti.
Yeah, graffiti. Yeah. So the opening scene in Oz, when Dorothy first lands there, she lands. It's the Wizard of Oz, right? So she kills the Wicked Witch of the East.
Yeah.
But in this movie, the Wicked Witch of the East is a parks commissioner, and she is all the Munchkins are graffiti artists, and the parks commissioner has cursed them all to be like part of graffiti on the walls. So once she's dead, all these graffiti people like peel themselves off the wall. I thought it was super cool. Like I was way into it. I thought I thought it was really cool looking. So like you said, we do a lot of musicals on this show, and I feel like a lot of the time I get this sense that I don't like Broadway musicals. And there are a lot of them that I really don't like. And this movie finally clued me into a reason why. I think the Broadway musical song style somehow seems to exist generally in a world where rock and roll never happened. Right? Like we go from
a lot of them were written before rock and roll did happen.
That's true.
Like all the Gilbert and Sullivan stuff, but all the Rodgers and Hammerstein stuff.
Yeah, but even newer stuff like generally seems to have that same vibe, right? Where we're in a world where we go from opera to like operetta. And then we just keep going a little bit further away from opera, but still, I mean, what I'm saying is the widest variety of music of all time, right? Like the Broadway music is generally written in a way where black people never happened. We're just like we're not gonna allow for the influence of this happen.
Old Man River.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
That's the black dude.
So, like, as soon as this movie starts, right, we're in, Harlem, which is the Kansas of this movie. We're at Dorothy's family Thanksgiving, and like her family just starts singing, and all of the music in this movie is like arranged by Quincy Jones,
who's also in it. Did you catch him?
He plays the piano.
Yep.
And it's just like, oh shit, like. This is the music that I grew up with because I'm a rock and roll kid, right? Like I wasn't a musical theater person.
Yeah, you were just a young black child in Long Island.
Shit, like I am as white as it gets. But the white music that I love was stolen from black people. So, I really, really like the music in this movie, and. That's what separates it from most musicals for me. Like I'm just like, this is doing the same things that most musicals do that I don't really like, except when the music is better, I have so much more of a tolerance for it.
Okay.
They don't call Broadway the Great White Way for nothing, is what I was.
And even though it was directed and written by white people, I do feel like this was a very black movie.
Oh, yeah.
Like the woman who sings a song, who basically does Glinda's job in Munchkin Land and tells her to go in the yellow brick road. She was like a number running.
Yeah,
she was in charge of number running.
Yeah, exactly. Ms. One was her name, but she was like, it's like.
And for our white listeners, we should describe what number running is.
So it's you pick 3 numbers,
right?
And every day
it's basically a local illegal lottery.
Yeah, exactly. So. Every day they draw 3 digits, and in that order. And if you have those numbers, you win the numbers. Right?
Yeah,
you win the lottery.
You split it if you pick the same numbers.
Yeah, exactly. However many people get the number, that's how many.
And they would just go around door to door, say numbers, and you give them money, and you're in the local lottery.
Yeah, exactly. So Ms. One, she's got an abacus around her neck, but she's also got a chalkboard. So when Dorothy's talking about how she wants to get home, she gives her address, which is a 3-digit number, and Ms. One writes her address number down. He's like, okay, that's your number. You want any other numbers? It's like, that shit is really funny.
And there's a whole lot of things that like are part of the black experience, like, especially in New York.
Yeah.
That you don't get in Wizard of Oz.
Right.
Yeah. And I think it's cool that like black people have their own Wizard of Oz now.
Right.
This is because there's kind of 2 Americas.
Yeah.
And they probably don't relate a lot to Dorothy and her problems.
Right.
But they do relate to this, you know. So I thought that was cool. I thought Diana Ross was really good in it. A really good singer.
I think she's a really good singer and a really good dancer, but this movie does fun stuff really well. Like the music that is fun, where people are, like big elaborate dance numbers and stuff like that. That stuff is really good.
Yeah.
But whenever it gets like sad or serious, I feel like it doesn't work nearly as well. And I like Diana Ross. Her range as an actress is kind of not there, I thought.
Okay.
But yeah, like she's a great singer. one thing this movie does great is dancing. Like, fuck, I mean, Michael Jackson is the Scarecrow.
Yeah.
So like this movie came out in 1978, so it's like the very beginning, is right after he left the Jackson 5.
Right before he became massive.
It's right before. And when you watch this movie, it's like you can tell this guy is going to be a huge star.
The way he did like the floppiness of a scarecrow and still was.
So Dorothy comes across him and he's hanging on this pole because he's a scarecrow, and she lets him down. And for the rest of the movie, while he's walking and moving around, he's doing this thing where it's like he's learning how to use his legs.
Yeah.
But he's also Michael Jackson dancing.
Right.
So like
there's a little bit of both in perfect measure.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of both of those things.
Yeah. And he is unbelievable in this movie. Like just watching him dance. And that's the thing. And Nipsey Russell plays the Tin Man, and he can dance like a motherfucker too.
Yeah.
Like just and he's doing this, and it's the same thing because he's the Tin Man, right? So the movie starts with him rusted, just like in the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
And they're oiling him up, and he's like unstiffening himself, and he's doing it, and just watching his body move is so cool. Like I love it. Like and so the thing that this movie does really well, like I said, not a lot of movie magic. So much of what works about this movie is just point the camera at these talented people and let them cook. And it does that so well.
In pretty interesting set pieces too.
Yeah, for
sure.
Like
you said that earlier, and that's true.
Yeah. Like so the scene with where we're introduced to the Scarecrow, he's hanging from his pole, and there are a bunch of crows, which is dudes in crow, makeup.
Yeah.
And they're tormenting him. And they do a song and dance number, and it's just like super fun to watch.
Yeah.
And then when he gets down off the pole and Dorothy has Toto chase the crows away, and then they find the yellow brick road, and then they ease on down the road, you know? Yeah. All just cool ass set pieces.
Yeah.
Like you said.
The Cowardly Lion is the statue.
The statue in front of the New York Public Library. Yeah. Which is super cool.
Yeah.
So that set piece has my favorite bit of stagecraft, where they're in front of the New York Public Library, and there's like a walk and don't walk sign, except because ease on down the road is how they're going. The sign says ease and don't ease. That shit.
I didn't even catch that.
That shit cracked me up. And then there's a really good set piece where after we meet all three of Dorothy's companions, they go down into the subway. And then, like, the subway station comes to life and starts, like, menacing them.
And is that, like, when you equate that part with the Wizard of Oz, what is that? Is that, like, the forest?
I think so. I think it's, like, when the trees start throwing apples at them.
And, like, the pillars, those tile pillars.
Yeah, so all of the pillars, that hold the floor of the city up, they all start coming to life, and they just start chasing after all of our characters.
There's some wacky costumes in that part.
Oh, yeah. There's some wacky costumes all over this movie. Like
there is.
There's this, like I said, I was thinking of you while I was watching it because of the practical effects that are being used here, you know, where it's just like, what we're doing here is, it's kind of like Jim Henson-y stuff, where it's just like, we need a subway pillar to attack Dorothy. What are we going to do? Well, let's just make a costume. Okay, let's do that, And so that kind of stuff is all over the place in this movie. And I thought it was really cool. So yeah, and it's weird because it's not like a one-to-one adaptation of The Wizard of Oz, because, like you said, the Wicked Witch of the West is the one who's menacing them in The Wizard of Oz. For every time they're in some kind of danger, it's the Wicked Witch of the West. But in this one, we don't meet the Wicked Witch of the West until after we meet the wizard.
She's just the subject of the hit.
Yeah. Yeah. So the Wiz in this movie, The Wizard of Oz, he's played by Richard Pryor.
Which is awesome.
Just awesome. And like, he does great Wizard of Oz, right? Like the thing about The Wizard of Oz is the character. He's blustery at first because he wants to intimidate everybody, with the giant fake head and everything.
Yeah.
But then once he's revealed, he's a total stammering coward. Yeah. And I think Richard Pryor plays that so well, and he's so funny. He's Richard Pryor, so he's obviously going to be funny. But he's doing a great job. But yeah, so then once they meet him and discover that he's a fraud, because that's what it is. Mm-hmm. He's like, well, I can help get you home, but you got to go kill the Wicked Witch. And so that's when we are introduced to the Wicked Witch, and she's a sweatshop owner. And instead of throwing a water bucket on her, Dorothy is able to kill her by pulling the fire alarm, and then the sprinklers come down.
Yeah. And she melts.
Yep. So
also the poppy scene I thought was good, where it was like a brothel.
Yeah, that was really strange, right? Because there's a bunch of, prostitutes? I don't know what else it is.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's a brothel.
Yeah, they call it Poppy's Love Perfume Company. So the Cowardly Lion and Dorothy are like seduced by these prostitutes and their poppy perfume.
Right.
And they start like, getting strung out on poppies or whatever this perfume is. And so then, they have to be woken up by the Tin Man's tears.
Yeah.
He starts, because, once it's like, oh no, are they dead? And then the Tin Man starts crying and his tears are shooting out and they fall on the Cowardly Lion and he wakes up. It's like, okay.
It was a weird scene.
It was very strange.
But I still liked it.
I definitely liked it too. So, yeah, I was enjoying this movie quite a bit, but this one is another one I felt like it kind of dragged. Like, I understand if you're doing a Broadway musical, you want to give the people their money's worth,
Right,
so
and Broadway musicals are long.
Make them long because you want to, people paying a lot of money.
Yeah.
But a movie, sometimes it's good to just get in and out. You do it in 90 minutes and make it work that way.
Yeah.
This movie, I feel like after we meet the wizard and we realize that he's a fraud, the movie really starts to drag. Like the long set piece with the Wicked Witch of the West in her sweatshop just seemed like
long.
It went on for a really long time.
And it just felt like cocaine fueled.
Yeah, well, like I'm sure that was a lot of it.
It felt like this movie was doing cocaine at some point.
The late 70s, man. I'm sure there were, Richard Pryor's in this thing, I'm sure.
Just in the air.
Yeah. So they kill the Wicked Witch, and then Glinda shows up, and like I said, it's Lena Horne, and then she has a song, and man, it just really...
And then Dorothy has a big exit song.
And man, like... So that's like the big showcase number, right? This is when Diana Ross is like, let me show you what I can do.
Yeah.
And it's great. It's cool that she has these pipes and can really wail like that.
Uh-huh.
But I don't know, man. I was just I was kind of over it. Like I said, the serious parts of this movie just really worked a lot less for me than the fun stuff.
Uh-huh.
So while we're easing on down the road and meeting our new characters, we're meeting the Scarecrow and the Tin Man and the Lion. That stuff was so much fun. And I was like, for the first hour of this movie, I was like, this is the best movie musical I've ever seen. Like, I was enjoying it so much.
Oh, wow.
But then my enthusiasm kind of dimmed a little bit as it went on. It's like, okay, all right, let's get this over with.
So are you saying, Ken, that it's about the journey and not the destination?
Exactly. Like I said, I feel like if this movie had been shorter, I would have liked it a lot more. But I still feel like the stuff that was in there, the first, I don't know, 2/3 of the movie were so like fun and alive that really most of it just really worked for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is shocking, I have to say.
Yeah.
I did not expect that from you. And I was watching this and I go, oh man, Ken is going to really hate this. Like, I was digging it. I'd seen it before.
Uh-huh.
One thing I did find a little kind of borderline racist.
Okay.
Was the motorcycle drivers.
Oh, the flying monkey guys?
It was weird. I think they were puppets.
Yeah.
They looked like over characterizations of black people.
Yeah.
As puppets. Did you get that at all?
I could see what you're saying. Yeah, because they have like really exaggerated like noses and lips and stuff. So it's just like kind of yeah, interesting. Yeah, I don't know.
But I'm guessing if it's looped in with all of this, it's probably part of the culture that I don't know about.
Right.
You know?
I don't know. Because like I again, I'm talking out of my ass because I don't really know, but I know even though the movie is created by white people, I'm pretty sure the stage show is black people, right? It's like,
I don't know.
I just assumed that because Quincy Jones is doing all the music and because, there's so many black icons in this movie.
Quincy Jones was involved in the stage show, was he?
I don't know. I honestly
think he was.
don't know.
I think he was involved in like rearranging stuff for the movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, but there's so many like iconic black celebrities of the time that are in this movie.
Yeah, there is.
That I just can't imagine that, I don't know, that they wouldn't have had at least some creative input on it. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know how that would get past everybody there.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
but I just found it a little like weird. So is that it, Ken?
Yeah, I guess that's it.
All right. So I'm very curious now because I'm not sure what this is going to be. Is it a pass, pirate, pay for you, Ken?
So The Wiz is for me a pay.
Oh, wow.
That is correct. Yeah, like I said, turns out if musicals have good music and good dancing, that is a good way to make a good musical. That's what I think.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
Totally on board.
I'm going to pay as well.
Nice.
Pay.
Awesome.
Sure.
So our third and final movie this week is 2024's Wicked, which is directed by John M. Chu. He also did the Crazy Rich Asians. So he's
okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's like the go-to giant blockbuster director now, I guess.
I guess so.
I have not seen Crazy Rich Asians,
I haven't either.
It made a ton of money, and
a lot
of people really like it. Yeah, great. Absolutely.
Yeah, all Asian cast.
Yeah, for sure.
I think it probably broke open the doors for Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Wow, I certainly hope so. I think Michelle Yeoh is actually in Crazy Rich Asians also, so that would make sense. Yeah, yeah. So Wicked. So have you seen this stage musical?
I have twice.
Okay.
The first time I saw Wicked, I didn't like it very much, and it was on Broadway. It had been out for a number of years, and before I saw that, like the same week, actually, like 2 days later, I saw the previews of Book of Mormon.
Okay.
And Book of Mormon was like the hottest ticket in town.
Yeah.
And I had got tickets way before it ever opened for previews. And I laughed so hard in that musical.
Oh, yeah.
I was laughing because I was in New York and I was laughing at jokes that a lot of people didn't get.
Really?
Because there's not a lot of Mormons in New York.
Yeah.
You know, and there would be real Mormon jokes. And I grew up around Mormons my whole life.
Yeah.
And I would get the jokes and laugh, and they'd look at me like I was some kind of idiot.
Weird. The first act of the Book of Mormon, when I saw it out here at the Smith Center, and I don't think I've ever laughed as hard in my entire life. Like, I was crying from laughing so hard. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, and when I'm seeing it in previews, because a lot of times, like, if you're seeing it at the Smith Center, you've heard songs from it.
No, I totally avoided it. I was able to avoid it.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good, because that's the best way to see it.
For sure.
Because that's how I saw it, and it was just staggeringly funny.
Yeah. Before I went and saw it, one of the people I went and saw it with had the soundtrack, and he was like listening to it constantly. And he's like, "Oh, you should listen to this." I'm like, "No, I want to see the show first." And I was right, because it's so funny.
It's so funny. I saw that, and then I saw Wicked, and by this time, Wicked is kind of tired.
Yeah,
it's been on Broadway for like 10 years.
Yeah.
And it was just like, okay, it's fine.
Yeah.
So that was my experience with Wicked.
Yeah.
The first time I saw it. I saw it again at the Smith Center, and I liked it a lot more.
Okay.
So,
yeah, so I have not seen this stage show, and I saw the trailers for this movie. I've been seeing this trailers for this movie for months and months now, and before I became aware that we were going to do it for the show, the thing I would think whenever I saw the trailers was, "Boy, really can't wait to not see that movie," because to me the trailers just did not look good at all. And
I think they look good.
Yeah, I was just super not interested. So is the stage show like 6 hours long by any chance?
I think it's pretty long.
Is it? Because
it's not 6.
Because they don't tell you in the trailers for this movie that this is not Wicked. This is Wicked Part 1.
Right.
This is just Act 1.
This is Act 1 because they end on Defying Gravity.
Defying Gravity, yeah.
Which is the end of Act 1.
Yeah. So and this movie is 2.5 hours long.
Yeah.
It's like, how the hell long is this stage show that we're doing?
The first act is usually longer than the second.
Yeah. So like I said, I was primed to not like this movie. I really was not. I didn't think I was going to like it. And the beginning of this movie, I thought dragged a lot. Like the first, 45 minutes or so. I'm a little ashamed to admit to our podcast listeners, I know I'm supposed to be here for y'all, but I did fall asleep a little bit. I was like, I don't know. It just did not grab my attention. So everything up until they get to the university, I thought was just kind of didn't really do anything for me. I thought it was kind of dragging.
Okay.
But eventually I started watching. What I really started to notice about this movie was Ariana Grande as Glinda, whatever you want to call her. And I'm an old man. I don't know anything about anything. I have no experience with Ariana Grande at all. So has she ever been in anything? Has she ever acted in anything? Is she a Disney kid?
She was, yeah.
So she is an actor.
Yeah.
But so I was actually surprised.
Of the most superficial variety.
Yeah. So I was pleasantly surprised how much I enjoyed the shit that she was doing as Glinda.
Yeah.
Like, she's really fun.
Yeah.
Glinda, the character, is I'm sure, a really fun character to play because she's like a super self-absorbed asshole, basically. Yeah. And I'm sure it should be a lot of fun to play. And like, Ariana Grande is having a blast with it. And she's really good. Like, I thought that I was really into her character. I thought she was like super fun. And then Cynthia Erivo as Elphaba, not nearly as much fun, but man, that woman can sing. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Like, she can absolutely wail. She's got some great pipes.
Yeah, everything I've seen her in, I've loved.
Yeah.
Musically and acting-wise, I've loved.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I love her voice. I really do. I think she sings really, really well. As an actor, I don't know. I don't dislike her, but I haven't really been impressed that much with anything other than her voice, I think.
Okay.
But yeah, I feel like the chemistry between those two characters and those two actors is really enjoyable.
Yeah, that kind of is what brought me back into the movie.
Yeah.
Because I would watch it and there was like, a scene would start and it would just be like a big giant set piece with a ton of people and a whole bunch of crazy CGI.
Yeah.
And I'd be kind of like, oh, this is like a Nickelodeon movie, man. Like, this is getting real silly.
Yeah.
And then a scene would happen between those two and it would draw me back in.
Yeah.
You know?
I feel like for me, the movie really picks up when the dude shows up, the prince guy, who is another obnoxious, self-absorbed asshole.
Yeah.
His first song is called Dancing Through Life. And it's just like an ode to being a person who doesn't have to give a shit about anyone or anything. And like, and it's like it's a fun song. And he's like just walking around and every single person who interacts with him is like falling in love with him. So I thought, and he's really a fun, charming asshole.
Yeah.
So I thought he was really good too. And then when he and Ariana Grande get together, like they start doing some really fun stuff. Yeah. And then he starts having chemistry with Elphaba, with Cynthia Erivo also. And I think they're really good together. So that's when the movie really starts to pick up for me. And then they have this like ball at some ballroom that nobody's supposed to be allowed to go into.
Yeah.
And after that ball, Glinda and Elphaba become friends.
Right, because Elphaba suggested to Madame Morrible, I think her name is? The Michelle Yeoh.
Michelle Yeoh, yeah.
She suggested that she study with her, and that's something Glinda's always wanted.
Right.
So it was an act of kindness.
Because Glinda had talked some guy into asking Elphaba's sister to this ball.
Right.
And so she was kind first, and then so they do these favors for each other.
And it starts out they loathe there's a whole song about how they loathe each other.
Right, exactly. And then they become friends, and they do this whole number about how Glinda's going to make Elphaba popular. She's going to teach her how to be likable.
Which is one of those showstoppers.
And it's great. That number was so much fun.
Yeah, it is.
So that little section of the movie, I thought was, like, I was so into it for that, like, little chunk in the middle of the movie. I thought it was just fantastic.
Yeah.
You know? And yeah, like, I'm sure that's the thing that people get out of Broadway musicals, right? Where you get swept up into it. Mm-hmm. And for a little while, I was just totally swept up into it. I thought, I thought it was really cool.
Yeah.
So I'm of two minds about a lot of the stuff in this movie. Like you said, about the CGI and the like really cheesy feel to it.
Yeah.
I feel like the actors are playing this very well. Like the movie is really whimsical, and I think the actors are playing it really well. Mm-hmm. And also the like set design and the costumes, all that stuff is really good.
Yeah.
It does a really good job. So in Lynch Oz, John Waters is talking about Glinda, and he at one point he says that she dresses like she went insane on her way to the prom. And all of Glinda's costumes in this movie look exactly like that. I thought it was so fitting. But yeah, the costumes are really cool. Like Elphaba wears these really cool glasses in the movie, and Bowen Yang's character, he's also got these super cool looking glasses. Like, all of the physical stuff in this movie looks really cool.
Yeah, and I saw some making of it, and a lot of those sets were huge practical sets.
Yeah, like during the popular number, there's a bunch of stuff where all of Glinda's like drawers and suitcases and trunks are popping open, and all of the dresses are like popping up and
like Transformers.
Yeah, and it just looks really cool. But then on the other hand, this movie has a psychotic amount of CGI.
It does, especially in the Emerald City,
and bad CGI. I think.
You think it's bad? I just think it's too much.
I just think it.
I don't think it's necessarily bad.
I think it looks like shit, kind of. Like I get major Harry Potter vibes coming off of this movie.
Yeah,
everything looks like the university looks like Hogwarts. It just seems like, I guess it makes sense because for generations of people younger than us, when you think of witches and wizards, that's what we think. That's what it means. Harry Potter just means that's
some of that
what that
influence
means
in there. Yeah,
yeah. So it just kind of looks like that, and I don't know. It all looks so cheap to me.
Spoiler warning. Wicked spoilers ahead. Skip to the next chapter or minute marker, 53 minutes and 30 seconds to hear the verdict. You have been warned.
So like you said, the movie ends with defying gravity. And it's supposed to be this like massive moment in the show where the whole movie, Elphaba is like, she has these powers, but she doesn't know how to control them.
Right.
So this is the moment where she becomes the Wicked Witch, right? She becomes this powerful being.
Well, also, there's a reason she becomes the Wicked Witch. Like, she finds out that this thing that has existed, the wizard, and the Emerald City and all this, is just kind of this fascist arm to control.
Right, exactly. And there's a whole thing about animal rights in there that, you know, I thought, as a political message, I certainly appreciated it.
But also, it fits into the plot.
Yeah.
A lot of that fits into the plot. Like, this is a spoiler alert for the next one. They are setting up the next movie, and I'm going to spoil some things for you here.
Do it.
Remember the lion cub they rescue when they're in the thing? He becomes a cowardly lion.
Oh,
he can talk.
Interesting.
Because he's been taken away from this.
Yeah.
Right? And the Peter Dinklage goat, he can't anymore.
Yeah.
Right? So that's why the cowardly lion can talk.
Oh, okay.
Nessa Rose in the wheelchair becomes the Wicked Witch of the East.
That makes sense because it is her sister.
Right. Bach, the guy who asked her to prom, becomes the Tin Man.
Oh, okay.
And the handsome, dashing Fierro, is it?
Yeah, Fierro.
Becomes the Scarecrow.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, shit. I had no idea.
I think the Wicked Witch gets pissed and curses them all.
Oh, wow.
For some reason.
Interesting.
I think, if I remember right.
Yeah, I had no idea about any of that.
So this is how they are turning the story on its ear, which is one thing I really like about things like this.
Yeah.
Like when you take a popular piece of, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
And you look at it from a different angle.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Like Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead.
Right. Or Cobra Kai.
Yeah, Cobra Kai.
Yeah, that was what I was thinking about when I was watching this. This feels like Elphaba as the Wicked Witch is just Johnny in Cobra Kai, right? Even though Wicked came out before Cobra Kai, that's just the way my brain works.
Right. So, but I really like how when you take it from a different angle, turn the good guy into the bad guy, give them their own motivations and reasons, and make it compelling. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. But yeah, so like I said about Defying Gravity, where it's
so did you not like Defying Gravity?
I think it's a really good musical song. It's a really good song for a musical, and again, it's a great. It's the same thing as the last song in The Wiz, where it's just this song is a showcase for our lead, and as a showcase for what Cynthia Erivo can do as a singer, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
So the number for me, like the big, huge moment is supposed to be when she gets on the broom and starts flying around.
Yeah.
And that's supposed to be this magical thing that happens.
Yeah.
But it's just done with this crappy looking CGI that I just can't.
I thought the whole final number was really good.
I couldn't get into it.
The look of it was good. I thought when so the way they do the effect in the stage show is she stands on some sort of crane and it lifts her up, but her cape like is covering the crane.
Yeah.
So the cape becomes really big and elongated, and they kind of paid homage to that.
Yeah, yeah. She does have the long cape going. Yeah.
And her cape kind of became big and crazy and flowing.
Yeah.
And it kind of looked like the musical. And I thought all of this is cool.
No, it just looks like shitty CGI to me. It's just like I'm supposed to be swept up in the majesty of this moment, and all I can think of is this looks like a video game on a PS3. Like it just looks shit to me. And I would love to see this. I would love to see this crane shit that you're talking about, to see it on the stage.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that would feel so much more magical than this felt like. There's no magic in this at all to me. Because CGI is so everywhere now.
Yeah.
And this isn't even good CGI, I don't think. So it's just like, I'm not swept up in the magic of this moment. And that's the whole point of this scene. This is like you said, it's the end of Act 1. It's the showstopper.
I was swept up in it. I thought that the interactions between Glinda and her, like right before she does all the flying stuff, was really great.
Yeah.
And the music is really good. I liked it a lot more than I thought I was gonna.
Yeah.
Sounds like you liked it a lot more than you thought.
I definitely liked it a lot more than I thought I was going to also. Yeah, I don't know. The Glinda stuff I liked. I really enjoyed the relationship between the two of them. That's the best part of the movie for me.
It is.
And so that stuff in Defying Gravity I thought was really good. Mm-hmm. But I don't know, man. The over-reliance on CGI and like everything outside of the performances, I feel like is designed to impress 5-year-olds. Like there's just like it's this movie,
maybe
it doesn't seem like it has a lot of respect for the audience. I don't know. I was really bummed out by the ending because I wanted to like it a lot more. The movie got me. I didn't think it was going to get me, and then it got me. And then once it got me, it lost me, and that made it more disappointing for me. Yeah.
What do you think of Jeff Goldblum?
I thought he was great. Same thing I was saying about Richard Pryor is the same thing I would say about him as the wizard. The thing where when they first meet him, he takes the gold coin and pulls it out of behind Elphaba's ear, like this shitty little magic trick. That thing was that made me really laugh. And he's a really good bumbling non-wizard, right? Because again, the Wizard of Oz, his whole thing is that he's a fraud.
What I like about this is that they do figure out he's a fraud, but it's before everybody figures out he's a fraud.
Yeah, exactly.
So he's still kind of got the con man vibe going.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and Michelle Yeoh, she's like helping him out, and they're like, so they're keeping the con going, and that's what they're recruiting Elphaba because like they want to.
Yeah, she's definitely the Steve Bannon to the wizard's Trump,
right? But yeah, so that's Elphaba actually has powers, so that's why they're also interested in her,
and why they're also scared
and terrified. Yeah, exactly.
Now that she's got the book,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I just like how like we're looking at this from a different angle, and we're seeing it through the prism of the witch, or the witches.
Yeah, like I said, I definitely liked it more than I thought I was going to. I am not sorry that I saw it. So that's a big surprise.
Yeah.
Like,
will you see Act 2?
I will actually. I think the movie did enough to make me curious. Well, I guess you already told me how it ends, but
I didn't tell you how it ends. But we all know how it ends.
Right. But yeah, I wonder if they explain how she became allergic to water. I don't know.
I don't know, but they foreshadowed it a bit.
When was that? Oh, with the
outside
with
this, it's raining. And
yeah. Right, yeah, exactly.
But you would think that as far as Elphaba's life has gone,
she would have had to have encountered water at some point.
The water is real bad.
Yeah, right.
And she's like dancing around on these stones during a number. Like, so maybe there's something with the water that's maybe it's not as bad as we think.
Right.
So I don't know.
Better than I expected, to be sure. And I'm curious enough to go see the second one.
So Ken, on our trip to the land of Oz for Wicked, is it a pass, pirate, or pay?
Yeah. So I'll get to that in just a second. This one has an explanation.
Okay.
My rating has an explanation.
All right.
When I was going to see this, I was thinking to myself, man, if I like this movie a little, it's going to be weird for me to say that it's pirate because I would imagine that the thing that I'm going to like the most about it is the spectacle. So seeing it on the big screen would be the important thing.
Yeah.
But it turns out that wasn't the case because the spectacle stuff was the stuff I hated the most. So this movie is firmly in the pirate category for me.
Okay.
And so if you want to watch this movie at home and not pay for it, I 100% support that.
People are not doing that.
I guess that is
This
true.
is a juggernaut.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm glad. I'm glad movies had a juggernaut.
I like it when movies are popular, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And just a reminder, next week will be part 1 of our Christmas specials. We'll be doing the Better Than G. Lee treatment to the new action Christmas movie starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, red one. Then we'll go over our top 3 Christmas movies of all time. See you then. Thanks for tuning in to Past Pirate Pay. This episode was produced by the one and only Andy Morris. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button on your favorite podcast app. We'd hate for you to miss out on all the fun. Curious about where to stream the movies we talked about? Head on over to pastpiratepay.com. We've got everything listed with handy links on where to watch. You can also join the conversation on our Facebook page or stalk our cinematic musings on Letterboxd. Links are on the site. Got a movie or a TV show you think we should review? Fill out the contact form, or this is cool, you can even text us right through the episode player on our website's front page. Thanks again for hanging out with us. Until next time, keep watching, keep rating, and keep it past Pirate Pay.